Ambroz delivered a TEDx talk at Wrigley Field in Chicago, discussing his remarkable story of overcoming childhood homelessness and foster care abuse. He writes about all of it in his memoir titled A Place Called Home, which is out now. David Ambroz, welcome to The Issue Is for the very first time.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations on the book. I think it's really, really excellent and is something that everybody should read because it gives you a sense of an issue that we don't talk about enough, which is foster care. Yeah. We want to put up some stats on the screen of foster care. Foster care is the largest single source of homelessness. After aging out of the system, nearly 60% of young men will be convicted of a crime. More than half of America's homeless population spent time in foster care. Foster youth are more likely to die, end up in jail, be pregnant, or be sex trafficked than ever attend college. Here's a photo of a young David Ambroz. Can you tell us your story, for people that haven't read the book, of what you went through when it comes to homelessness and foster care?
So I shared in my memoir the story of my family, which is truly the story of too many children. There's 8.4 million children that share something very similar. We started homeless. I was born into homelessness. There was not a before time. It was my normal. I had a brother, a sister, and my mom. My mom had a progressively worse mental health issue. And if there's an issue beyond poverty that I would like to focus on, it's mental health care, because they're so intrinsically tied. We grew up for 12 years in the streets of New York City for the most part. We begged, we borrowed, we slept in the street until around 12 we entered foster care. And when I first entered foster care, I was convinced I was saved, and I learned very quickly that hell had a basement, and I was going to go into it for a period of time. I struggled through foster care, barely made it out with one good foster family out of all of them, and I ended up going to Vassar College and UCLA School of Law.
You mentioned your education. We want to put a picture up of your siblings as well, because all of you are now thriving. Your mom, despite the mental illness, talked a lot about the importance of education and wanting you all to succeed. And all three of you now have advanced degrees. Your sister with a degree in social work. You mentioned your experience at Vassar, your law degree at UCLA. You have worked in local politics, including serving as the president of the LA City Planning Commission. There you are at City Hall. And you've had some pretty big corporate gigs as well for some of the biggest companies in the world. You're currently serving as head of community engagement for Amazon. You previously worked, you see you there, in terms of corporate responsibility for Walt Disney Television. And in the process of all of that, you've gotten to meet some of the biggest politicians in the world, like Hillary Clinton and Karen Bass, so many others. What has been your message to them about this issue of foster care?
In our country, with 8.4 million children, not since 1999 has the phrase child poverty been uttered at a presidential debate. 8.4 million children. It's larger than the population of some states, and we ignore it. We flow around the issue as if it didn't exist. My message is consistently that economically it doesn't make sense, and morally we can do better. This is not who we are. And when I speak to these individuals, folks like Secretary Clinton or Mayor Bass, they are right there with us. But what's lacking is public interest in this issue. It seems overwhelming, and so we feel helpless to address it. And therefore, our elected people don't feel necessarily the motivation of the public to fix it.
Because so often, the way things get done in politics, let's face it, is lobbyists, right? Corporations like Amazon or Disney or other big companies have people that go in and argue for certain policies, and they give campaign donations, and that's how things get done. But if you're in foster care, you barely have money to survive and eat. You don't have money to go be a lobbyist in Sacramento or in Washington. And so a lot of these kids are often voiceless, except for people like you. But we have made some progress in this state, including in a big way when it comes to college and foster care. We know Governor Newsom believes in this issue. He had foster siblings growing up. What is going on when it comes to college in California?
Lots of good things. So California, Governor Newsom just signed legislation that passed, which will provide free tuition, room, and board for foster youth at Cal State, UC, and the community colleges. It has been years in the making, and we have some amazing legislators with lived experience, as well as our governor. And so the law passed. It's groundbreaking in the country, and I think will have a huge impact and outcomes for kids like me coming through foster care.
But another big issue is, like, where do they stay?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about so many of the foster youth that end up homeless.
Yeah.
You're working on an initiative with this when it comes to getting a dorm for foster youth. How's that work?
If a third of the homeless in LA County and the coastal counties are former foster youth, what is the master plan we have developed to address a third of the population? The answer is none. Well, what I propose is something different. What if we built a dorm at a number of community colleges across the state? We own the land. These are our children. You don't have to build parking, and you can achieve scale. So there's so many pluses. And then also you emancipate young people to pursue a vocational 2-year or transfer. We have a plethora of lawyers. We have a dearth of people in vocational trades. I think this helps on all fronts with the workforce crisis we have. So we could do so many goods and also live up to who we are as a people.
So what's the answer? People saying yes? Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, you know, everyone says yes. The challenge I find is we need to do it. So a couple things are in motion. One, very proud, we are working to build a dorm in Los Angeles at one of the community colleges here, LA City College. The idea would be to build it right on campus, right above the Red Line subway station, so that people have access to this amazing institution.
You know, it's been interesting that you are now paying it forward through your experience. You've got a foster son.
Yeah.
We've got a picture of him as well, and I know you're so proud of him and his success and the lessons that you've taught him. I know you've learned a lot from him. You've also been on tour across the whole country, talking to a lot of churches about this issue, which is interesting, where you're also talking about your own experience as an openly gay man as well. What have you learned both from your son and from all these people you're meeting across the country when it comes to these issues?
My foster son taught me my most important lesson, which is to be vulnerable. My foster son taught me that in order for him to live and process what he went through, that I had to share my experience. And before that, I hadn't really done that. And that vulnerability has helped me become a more full person, able to contribute with my memoir and share my story. Across the country, I've talked to conservative, liberal, all of it. My goal is to make sure that everyone knows that we have a stake in the lives of 8.4 million children. 700,000 foster children pass through the system each year. They're not red children, they're not blue children. They're America's children. And so I will talk and be in conversation with anyone that will listen. That's Saddleback Church up there on the screen. We should be talking to everybody about this issue because these are our children.
Yeah, and the most vulnerable children that we have. And if you want to solve homelessness, you got to solve foster care. And if that's our biggest issue, we should be talking more about this.
Yeah.
We're so grateful for the work that you're doing in this city of angels. You are one of the angels of this city. And, you know, we like to go to break with music on this show. So I asked you for your musical choice, and you chose Undefeated by Rihanna J. Why that song?
The lyrics itself speak to her struggle and the struggle of African-American females as they sought to be recognized for their greatness. And it spoke to me so much as a young person coming up, despite everything you struggle against, being unseen, and what it takes to achieve, in her phrase, to achieve gold. And so it has been so meaningful for me for years now. So it's my theme song. All
right, so we go to break with that, your chance to rock out. More of The Issue Is right after this.
You say I'm too bold, I'm coming on strong. You say I'm too this, you say I'm too that. Well, that's too bad, 'cause it ain't a secret.
I will not sing.
I still believe it.